Hello everyone, welcome to the Sportscast. It's me, Andy Grant. I've got Gary Judge from Across the Park podcast, and this is coming to you in a massive week of international football where England have lost another European final and Gareth Southgate has called it time. What are your first thoughts?
I think it was inevitable. I wouldn't say it was inevitable either way. I think if we'd have got the victory, I think he'd have been riding high on the euphoria. He's a thought, can I take this group into the World Cup now that they've won something? And I think he maybe would have been swayed to stay. But I think given the outcome, given the fact he's had four fairly close stabs. Is it 4 or 3? 3 really, isn't it? In terms of final, semi-final.
Yeah, he's done a quarter-final, semi-final and 2 finals. So
he's had 3, as in the final and the 2 finals and the semi, I think are the ones I'm referring to. 3 fairly close stabs at competitions where I think 2 of the 3, as in the one at home and the one at the weekend, you could argue we should have performed better in those particular games, but with one-off finals in particular. I think that the pressure, the speculation, the general opinion of the nation is that we need to move on and we need a different perspective. We maybe need to take someone to take us on that next step. So for me, I'm not surprised.
I mean, there's kind of 2 main things we can get into the crux of it, really, like the game itself and then obviously the fallout with Southgate resigning. We'll touch on Southgate first, mate. I've got mixed reviews on it, to be honest. I think he did need to go first and foremost, but I've listened to obviously a few of the pundits and I somehow agree and disagree with what various people have said. I see Jamie Carragher was quite on this stance of like, who do you think we're going to get? And I actually agree with him in that sense because I don't think you're going to get the likes of, Jurgen Klopp coming out of retirement and looking to manage the England team. I'd be very surprised if they kind of get a coup like that. So I don't think there's any kind of massive international names out there who would be clambering to jump at this England job. For the fact that Carragher made is that to do better than Southgate, you've got to win something. Like you've just said, then he's got to, 2 finals, a semi-final, a quarter-final. He's done really well considering the place he's come into. So for anyone who wants to come in next, success has to be winning a trophy. So I don't think there's going to be a clamber of people. So for that reason, you could argue you need to keep Southgate. However, where I disagree is I just think he's personally took them as far as he could. I think he's done an amazing job. And when you think where England were when they come in, it was a very disjointed squad. There was a lot of problems going on, wasn't there? Like between the media and the England team, a lot of negativity. Players apparently didn't like playing for England. I think the fact he's brought everyone together, he's done an amazing job. However, in fact, there's no however about it. He has done an amazing job. But now I do think it is the right time to move on.
No, I couldn't have put it any better myself, and I pretty much was going to say that. I think he deserves huge credit for the progression that he's made with this England, not just this England group, just generally the national team. As you say, he's restored, I think, the enjoyment and pride into the setup. I think it was clearly a very disharmonised group, if you call it that, or an environment that the people didn't enjoy as were not relishing incident when they were putting on that England shirt. So I think he's took some of that burden, and I was going to kind of credit him with that. There wasn't many people going into the finals talking about it. It was more about the manager needs to get it right, the manager needs to get a selection right, etc. So he deserves massive credit. And to go back to your original point, the next manager has got I think the biggest challenge for the next manager is to retain all that whilst also taking them on, because I think if you just come in, and I actually disagree with anyone who believes that bringing in a big name is the answer, even if Jurgen Klopp was available, and that's a mad thing to say. But name me more than 3 managers who've been exceptionally successful at club level and have then managed to step up to international level and do the same. I can only really think of Vicente Del Bosque won a couple of Champions Leagues and has been successful with Spain. Marcello Lippi won apart from that, I'm struggling. I'm scraping the battle a little bit in terms of finding those examples. I think the two different jobs, and we spoke about Southgate potentially being a club manager. I don't think he'll translate what he's done with England into club management, even though you might say it's not successful. I think he's an international manager. I think that the style he's got and the way he's went about it is international management. I think the two different jobs, and therefore we'll probably come on to that now. I think his successor shouldn't be that big name.
I think when people talk about your Klopps or your Guardiolas, well, what I mean when I certainly mention their names is almost the style of play. You know, they're almost winners. Do you know what I mean? It's like when I say a big name, it's kind of someone who knows how to win. But I totally take on board your point. They are two completely different jobs. But I think when the names are kind of Klopp and Guardiola mentioned, it's like you just want to get someone in who knows how to win, who's been there, seen it, done it, and won the biggest trophies. But no, I totally get your point. I don't think the jobs are kind of relatable in that sense. One thing I think, again, and I know me and you were trying to be looking at it both sides and think, we both just put decent points across. I think the one thing you've got, though, is if you are a Southgate sympathiser, you'll talk about all the kind of, you'll talk about the two finals, you'll talk about the semi-final, how he's managed certain things, how he's brought players on, how he's moved players out. You'll talk about all the great things he did. You've also got the people who aren't buying him that will talk about how lucky he's been with the draws. I mean, it was unbelievably lucky this time round, how the draw fell. You'll get people who point to that. You'll look at people who'll say, we haven't really played that many big teams, and every time we did, I think he played 25, 30 games out of his 102, and I think he only against big teams, and I think he only won 7 or 8 of them. So you'll get people who'll say, actually, do you know what? Anytime we stood up to the plate, he didn't do very well. So I think his record's there, what it is, what he's done, and I think depending on whether you're a Southgate optimist or pessimist, you can kind of pick your arguments to suit. Really, I think my kind of memory would be of him. He's took something that was really broken, he's fixed it up. It's not perfect, but he done his best he could with it, and sent it on its way.
You can always find stats, can't you, to suit your narrative without doubt. I think that previous stat around the numbers of teams in the top 10 or whatever that he's beat, I wouldn't say it's nonsense. It's obviously it is what it is. The stats are the stats, but ultimately, in the last 3 competitions, he's got to a semi-final and 2 finals. The only way he beats that is to get 3 finals and to maybe win 1 or 2 of them. So I'm not really having that. I think you've got to look at, as you've stated, where we were when he took over and where we are now. Where we are now is clearly in the top 3, maybe 5 if you're going to bring some of the South American teams into it. But we're easily in the top 5 best teams in the world, no argument whatsoever, given our performance in the last 3 major competitions. That's a hell of a lot further on than where we were when he took over. And we're in the mix for the next World Cup. We'll be one of the favourites because of the squad of players that he's brought together. Now, we're not looking, he hasn't developed all those players, but he's brought them into the international fold at the right time. And with the odd exception, they've all performed as well as they could. Look, Bellingham is, I think, the one that you like. He definitely could have got more out of that. And I think if we go into the game, we can obviously talk about that as well. But just briefly going back to the whole Jurgen Klopp Guardiola thing, the biggest difference between international football and club football, you don't get to work with these players every day, 5 days a week, whatever, 50 weeks a year. It just doesn't happen. You get them for a short period of time. You can't get across your intricate styles of the way you want to work. You've got to have a simple system, simple way of playing, and you've got to slot those players into that system in a very, very short period of time. And that is a particular skill set. And you need to be very humble, I think, to almost throw all your ideologies out the window and go, this is the way we've got to play to be competitive and to do well in competitions, which is what it's about.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think if we kind of can, wedge into the game a bit, I think one of the things which, if you look back over Southgate's career, I'm going to sound really harsh now on Harry Kane, but Harry Kane, he's been England's striker. Well documented, he's never won a trophy in his career. Southgate's had him as captain, as the leader. How different could Southgate's story have been if Kane doesn't miss that chance against Croatia in the semi-final? How different would Southgate's reign have been if Kane doesn't miss the penalty against France? How different would Southgate's reign have been if Kane comes into this fully fit? I mean, you talk about having your leader. Your leader's never won nothing in his career. Do you know what I mean? And I think it's it's a bit harsh saying Aaron Keane. Listen, he's a great player, but I do think, that the haters, if you like, the Arsenal fans will jump on kind of the Kane and stuff, maybe his performances, and I just think you'd have to be really, really harsh to slag Southgate off, because it could have been so different. I've just mentioned a few moments there of Kane. I think people, quite easily forget just how close we were, and things could have been a lot different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's a great point. And whether you blame Kane for that or whether you blame Southgate for that depends on, where you sit. Look, there's no question Harry Kane is a world-class striker, but world-class players, are synonymous down the years for standing up and for showing up in those big moments. And if you look back at the moments, not just for England, but for Spurs, at certain times in finals and semi-finals, he's not performed, or he's not scored, or he's not took that chance when that's what he's there to do. And I think, listen, it's clear that Southgate, by making him captain and by having him as a talisman, which, look, you'd find it hard to argue with it. If you look across our choice of strikers, his record stands, head and shoulders above most of them in terms of, goals form. But if you're going to look at Spain, who beat us in the final, was Alvaro Morata, his form and his goals record in the last 3 or 4 years stands head and shoulders above the other Spain strikers? I don't think so. But the system that Spain were playing needed a number 9 who could hold the ball up, you could win things in the air, you could do the ugly things, and could link up with the other players. That's why Morata played. So if you go back to the options that Gareth Southgate had, and the amount of times that not only myself but numerous people have said it, is that in order to get the best out of Bellingham, you need pace, you need width, you need people stretching that back line to create the space. We weren't getting that because you're playing Harry Kane, who's dropping in all the time. I don't think he was the right man for that system. But as you say, by making him captain and by making him his main man and hanging his hat on him, it was almost like a pathetic fallacy in the end. It was always going to end that way.
We'll touch on the game now and then finish off on where we see England going forward. So the game itself, mate, I was, I said it for months now, I was convinced we were going to win. And even when we went a goal down, I was thinking, what, I can still see something happening. You look at the stats itself, they tell a different story than kind of me hoping. I think the expected XG was 1.89 for Spain. It was 0.61 for England. 60-40% possession, 15 goal attempts to England's 9. They definitely did have the better of the play. I think, and you nailed it, I think, on either last week's show or the week before, Bellingham and I think Kane, it just didn't work, did it? They were almost playing in the same position at times. I think that, including Cole Palmer coming off the bench, again, I just would have liked to have seen him get more minutes. There were so many things that, again, just left you scratching your head thinking, what is going on here? I've seen a mad stat that in all the games combined that respectively they had, Croatia had a better XG than England, but Croatia didn't even get out the group stage. England played 7 games and Croatia created more chances in 3 of them. I mean, it's mad. And if you look at the tournament on a whole, England played 7 games. They only actually won 2 games in 90 minutes, and one was a last-minute winner. I mean, it's so frustrating, the kind of style of football. You mentioned it then, and I think you've nailed it. Spain had a system. They had players that fitted into that system perfect. And it felt at times England, because I think on paper they had the best squad, were just trying to crowbar players in to fit a system really that wasn't quite settled for them.
Yeah, I agree, mate. And I also think that, again, going back to I think the art of, and again, this is just my opinion, people can shoot me down and that's absolutely fair enough, but I think the art of good international management is, as I say, having a simple system. You either go about it one way, you look at your players and go, let's create a system to suit those players, or you go, this is my system, I'm going to find players to go into it, regardless of form, regardless of age, as we've seen with, Yamal and Pedri, and obviously Pedri got injured. Williams, his name, Nico Williams, wouldn't have been rolling off everyone's tongue going into the tournament. But obviously, them 2 players were key for them. Even when Rodri comes off at half time in the final, you're thinking, where do we go from here? The next point I was going to make is that as an international manager, you need to have a clear plan B of going, plan A isn't working, which it may not work from time to time. Here's my plan B. You may not have seen it at half time, but again, and this is not saying I'm any kind of genius, but within 30 seconds of the second half, you could see that Spain had pushed another man on our back 4 and made it 4v4 in the final third, and they dropped 2 players deep to then occupy our midfielders. So they were clearly looking to bypass our midfield and just go into the forward players. That was his plan B. It was very simple: push an extra man up on the back 4 and drop another man in there and miss out that middle third, which is almost like the way that Spain play. But if you look at Spain's possession stats from the tournament, they weren't overwhelming as they normally are. They weren't in the 70s and 80s. They were kind of marginal. And that's because his plan B, he was using a lot more often, of missing out the middle third and going directly into those wingers and those forward players. It was within 2 minutes that they took the lead by changing that system, and it was a very small tweak, but the players knew how to adapt to it. When we made a change, it was 3 or 4 players coming on, and it was a bit messy, and it was all about one individual player, whether it be Cole Palmer or Ivan Toney or Ollie Watkins, just making something happen or changing it. It wasn't a system change, and that again is, we talk about the legacy of Southgate. I think that'll be one of the things that lingers, is like he never really had that system that was effective in the first place completely, and then a plan B that was different to it that the players were aware of.
Mate, you've nailed it, because the one reason I thought England were going to win, it wasn't to do with Southgate's tactical master plan. It wasn't to do with a system that they play. It was, I was looking at that team or even that squad going, Worldy, and I thought that'll get them over the line. And to be fair, it did. It took a Bellingham overhead kick. You know, players did step up at times, maybe not enough you could argue, but they did step up. Whereas they came against the Spain team where their names weren't rolling off the tongue, like you just said. I'm looking at the team now. You know, who's the centre back there? What's his name?
Lenormand.
Yeah. I'd personally never even heard of him. Do you know what I mean? And you're thinking, but like you say, that's why I thought England would win, because I thought, you know, Foden, Bellingham, Kane, we'd look at Pickford. You know, I know during the season, you know, me and you can be quite bitter to each other over Liverpool and Everton. Considering Everton's season, Pickford was what in the top 3? Was he clean sheets? Do you know what I mean? He'd had an unbelievable season with regards to not conceding that many goals. Second, do you know what I mean? You're looking at the experience that they've got at the back. You know, Stones and Walker, they've won absolutely everything in the game. You know, you've got Trent won everything. You know, he was on the bench. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't even getting used. I thought, this is why we're going to win. Just got so much in-depth quality, and they can create moments of magic. And unfortunately, those kind of big plays and moments of magic were subdued thanks to just a very good, well-oiled, drilled system that the Spanish had. And I think over the tournament, they proved that they were the best team.
And you know what? Even though I've made distinct comparisons between international football and club football, that's the same in club football, isn't it? A system, a well-oiled system with players who fit into that system and know their roles, invariably beats a team full of players that are pulled together. You know,
I think big players can win you tournaments, though, can't they? When it's knockout football, you know, big players can step up, which, like I say, you know, we did a couple of times. But I think, put it this way, if you had Spain and England and put them into any league, England would be mid-table, playing like the way they did. It was shocking football half the time. And Spain, like you say, were deserved winners. Mate, on that, then, where do England go forward? There's a lot of names being mentioned. I think it's the 6-5 favourite at the moment is what's his name? The old Chelsea manager, Potter.
Graham Potter.
I think it's the 6-5 favourite when I last checked. And Lee Carsley, I think 3-1 second favourite. I personally think they'll go for the Lee Carsley approach. I think that's what they did with Southgate. You know, they almost pointed in from within. And maybe they're looking at Spain as well. You know, that Spanish manager's one. I think he's won the under 18s, under 21s, and now with the seniors. So I think Lee Carsley would be the way to go for me.
I agree, and you look at the nations who have been successful. You know, Spain obviously have done it. Germany have done it a lot down the years in terms of promoting from within. He knows the players that are coming through. He'll have been working closely with Gareth. And it's not just football. In any industry, if you're under someone, you're looking at the things they do well and you're thinking, yeah, I'll continue doing that. But you're also thinking, I would have done this, I would have done that. I think that's what it needs. I don't think, I genuinely, and this is as much respect as I can give Southgate, I genuinely don't think there's a million things wrong with what he's done. It's small tweaks and they are the differences. And I think the one distinct difference between the two is that he's won international competitions, you know, at different age groups, and he's done it. And he's probably done that on the basis of again, not rocket science. Having a system, fitting players into that system, and it being clear and simple. And I think if he can stick to that, he's got a clearly incredibly gifted group to work with. And if he can keep that enjoyment, keep that culture that Southgate has manufactured at the top level, and people enjoying coming and playing for the country. But if he can just create a system that is a bit more simple to understand, and again, for me, having a plan B of how to inject a bit of pace into the game and change the system to beat teams who are playing in a certain way, then I think he could have enough to take the team on and win something at the World Cup.
Yeah, no, I agree with it, just with the squad. To finish on a bit of a negative when it comes to England, we started seeing the rumours already about Bellingham and about how he's a bit too big for his boots. Apparently he's not getting on with all the players there. Some of the players weren't happy with how the media portrayed Bellingham, and some of his social media team of, who else? I think it was one of his comments that he'd said when he scored the winner. I don't know, it already seems a bit like Gaza, build up this superstar kid, and already people are just waiting. I'm not seeing any of the kind of big tabloids in it and a massive outpour of kind of social media backlash, but I think the vultures are circling the fact that he never had an amazing tournament, and maybe a bit of his attitude. I seen a report that just before he took Kane off in the final, he was almost screaming at Southgate, to make a change. He was so frustrated. And you think a 21-year-old kid screaming at the manager saying make a change, I don't know, I can just see the media vultures circling, waiting for him to fuck up, and then I think they've got to be on him.
Yeah. Listen, he's playing for the best team in the world at the moment. He's playing under, in my opinion, the best manager or coach in the world at the moment, certainly in the top three. And he's playing, probably, again, going back to the points we made around how we could have been more effective. Again, he's playing under a manager who keeps things simple, but also knows how to change things when he needs to. And you know what? I don't blame him for the frustrations. He's got high standards. And I think, despite the fact we want the England team and the group to have harmony, you want winners, and you want people in there who know what it takes to win. And back to your previous point, I think he's nailed on to be the captain going into the World Cup, regardless of his age, because he carries that responsibility and he turns up in the big moments, which is what Harry Kane hasn't done. So look, you can lead by example, by your attitude and all that type of stuff. But for me, I haven't played the game at nowhere near the level that these players have played it. 99% of players look up to players who turn up when they need them, and you can trust them in those big moments. And for me, he's everything that we want, or that this nation needs in a captain.
And I think any fan or even player, if you ask them, do you want Jude Bellingham to be, your best mate, or do you want him to just not give a fuck about you, but he gets you over the line? I'm pretty sure everyone would go for that kind of Michael Jordan approach we've all seen The Last Dance. Even there was so many rumours about Mane and Salah not getting on and stuff like that. Who cares? Liverpool won Everton with them. So yeah, I think I totally agree. I totally agree with you, but I do think the media now, this kind of halo that was on Bellingham, I think it's slipping slightly. Mate, so away from international footy, mate, I've just seen a bit of random news that's just popped up with regards to ex-Everton defender Johnny Heitinga. He's set for a coaching role at Liverpool. Seems a bit mad. Well, I don't know. He's Dutch, isn't he? I guess so. What's going on?
Agent Johnny.
He is Dutch, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He was the Ajax coach.
I thought you said Asian Johnny. I was thinking he's definitely not Asian.
Agent.
Yeah, that's just a bit of a mad one, isn't it? Yeah, he was part of David Moyes set about West Ham as well. But yeah, it looks like he's getting a bit of a Dutch backroom staff around him. What's been going on at Everton? I haven't, to be honest, heard that much of dealings. I mean, anything exciting to get you excited about the season just a couple of weeks away?
Not in particular. I mean, Everton look like they've got a few departures. As in, Onana's going to Villa. That's pretty much done. They've agreed a fee for Onana, which out of the three players, if you like, within the shop window, because they're assets and I guess they've got ambitions. Randwaite, Calvert-Lewin and Onana, he would have been the first on my list for us to get rid of. I mean, he's a good player. I think he's got a high ceiling in terms of potential, but out of the three, he was probably the most inconsistent. And again, I think it's probably going to be a good 2 or 3 years before he starts to come close to his potential. And we probably haven't got that time really to hang on to a £50 million asset. So wish him well. but I think it's good business from the club, I think, for a change.
And do you think you want to get rid of the other two as well, or?
I think Calvert-Lewin might go, but I think if he does go, it's going to be for us at the price that we're comfortable with. And I think when we've got someone in who can replace him, so I think they're probably lining that up at the same time whilst the suitors are circling to try and agree a fee. It's probably going to be one, I think, unfortunately, that's done quite late in the window because Everton are holding on for a particular fee. And obviously they're adamant that they're going to get a replacement before he's sold. So it might just be one that, you're waiting for one team to sell someone else for us to get a replacement in and so on. But yeah, I think Brandtwaite's staying now. I don't think anyone's getting close to the £70 million valuation we've got. And again, fair play to the club. I think from Brandtwaite's personal perspective, I still think a year with Everton's not going to do him any more harm. I think maybe next summer might be the time that he's got to move on if he has another good season and he plays at the level that he did again, which I think he probably will do because the back four is going to be fairly stable. The system's going to be fairly similar. You wouldn't be surprised if he produced the same, if not better levels than last season. So I think one more season for him, and if we can get the money that's happening at the moment, again, it'll be another example of good business and sensible business.
Yeah, no, couldn't disagree with you there. I'm just hoping Liverpool start doing a few bits and bobs because there's literally been nothing out of the club whatsoever. And there's still the idea of the contracts to tie up as well. I mean, I know Trent and Virgil probably they definitely haven't been back yet, but there was Trent, Virgil and Mo, whose contract, I think 18 months left. Even just a bit of news on that would have been nice, but, there's nothing coming from the club as of yet. So, not a bit quiet on the Liverpool front. Maybe we move on to golf. It's the Open starts this weekend, and already Tiger hits back at Montogomerie. Did you see that?
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting. So yeah, Montgomery basically he's turned around and said, he thinks Tiger should retire, and I didn't realise that you get a like a pass if you're a champion, you can still go until you're 60. So as a past champion, he says, I'm exempt until I'm 60. Colin is not, as he's not a past champion, so he's not exempt. So we got a little dig in to say that. And you know what? He's turned around and said, look, he doesn't get the right to decide when I retire or not. And I just think, though, it does pose that question. Tiger's turning up and he's saying, I'll retire when I want to retire. I'll keep on playing tournaments if I think I'm going to win. I think that's a little bit of a white lie. I don't think he's turning up thinking he's going to win. I think he's turning up thinking, I love playing golf. I love seeing my fans. I might make a few quid, and I don't know what else I can do with my life. I think there's definitely a little bit of that, which is completely fine, by the way. But I don't think Tiger will just turn up at these tournaments anymore thinking I've got a credible chance of winning it, which again is fine. But I don't think Montgomery there should be turning around telling anyone should retire, let alone the legend that is Tiger Woods.
No, I think I don't know how old Colin is now, but he must be in his 70s, and maybe he's just trying to stay relevant or still have his name out there somewhere. But yeah, as you say, he's nowhere near. He as much as a top golfer he was, he's not fit to be Tiger Woods' caddy, let alone come out.
I was thinking of what the right terminology was to lace someone's boots. Yeah, I think you got it right with he's not fit enough to be his caddy. I was lacing someone's boots thinking, where can you go with that?
Yeah.
But yeah, I got close last time with picking McIlroy as to win. Obviously, he comes second last time. I had an absolute nightmare on his last couple of holes. I'm not going to touch him this time, I don't think. But yeah, I just think Scheffler's winning run at the moment. Absolutely crazy, so I wouldn't be looking far past him. Maybe we also had the tennis. Did you manage to watch much of the Wimbledon? I didn't watch as much of it as I normally did. I think I watched all the semis. I think most of the quarters, and obviously the two finals. Really enjoyed it. It was good to go back. Didn't get over the line. But to be honest, I fancied Alcaraz anyway because of Novak's injury. I mean, he was only off the operating table 3 weeks before Wimbledon, so the fact he even made it to the final was unbelievable. And he was just completely outclassed in the final by Carlos Alcaraz, who only being, I think, 22. I think he is 21, 22. He's already got 4 Grand Slams, which is the same as Andy Murray. So I'm not going to start the whole Andy Murray debate. But again, you put Andy Murray up there. This is a young kid from Spain, 21, who's already matched them. It's just like crazy levels, isn't it?
I mean, it's more a credit to Alcaraz, isn't it? Look, I think you can always go, oh yeah, well that means he's crap because this person's got this. I don't think it's about that for me personally. Alcaraz, and just touching on the final, the biggest factor for me, I wouldn't necessarily say it was class. It was just pure athleticism. Like if you've got a player who's a little bit injured and you're hitting like balls right into the corner of the court, and then someone's getting them back every time, it's like, I can't live with this. And there was just so many points where you're just seeing Djokovic's face to say, how can I possibly win today? And you don't see it very often from Djokovic, but he half surrendered, I think.
Yeah.
Taking that second set, he literally thought, listen, I'll leave that set now and try and focus on the third set. And got into the tiebreak, and there was a few points where, it went longer than 5 or 6 shots, and Djokovic is smashing them into the corner. He just keeps getting them back. It's just, he's an extraordinary athlete.
It was mad, and I think Djokovic did show his class, because I think in the third he managed to save a couple of match points, and then I think it did take it into the tiebreak, and you thought actually maybe what, but no, like you say, you've nailed it. He was just too good on the day. But great thing is Djokovic has come out and said, look, that's definitely not my final Wimbledon. He'll definitely be back, and I think that definitely will not be the last slam final you see between those two. That's for sure. And then a little bit on the darts, mate. I know you were watching it. I saw your missus putting it on Instagram. You must have been watching it in bed all late at night when you should have been asleep. But did you want to touch on that? I didn't really see any of the darts.
Yeah, it's decent. World Matchplay. So the format is it's first to 10. They play in like 5 legs, and then they have little breaks every 5 legs. But the big games last night were Michael Smith and Gary Anderson. Gary Anderson's had a little bit of a spell outside of the top 16, and he's been out of the Premier League for a few years, but he's still a top class player. And I think the bookies had Gary Anderson as favourite to win last night, but Michael Smith, come through in the end. I think this is the great thing about darts, whether you're just watching it to enjoy it or whatever, you've got a particular favourite player. It's so hard to pick a winner out of any. I'd say the top 32, because you had games last night, for instance, where someone has a miles better average by maybe 5, 6, 7 points, but then they were missing the doubles. And the doubles are so important. If you're taking out a double on your first dart, it just puts that seed of doubt in your opponent's mind. It's so psychological. But yeah, the big games last night were Michael Smith and Gary Anderson. As I say, Michael Smith come through, and it was Luke Littler and Van Gerwen.
Yeah.
And again, the bookies had Littler as a massive favourite, but Van Gerwen being such a determined but classy opponent that he is, came through. And again, that was another example. Littler's averages were better than Van Gerwen's, I think. And Van Gerwen's just ruthless on the doubles, and that's the way it goes. But yeah, it was a good match, and the next round now is going to get really interesting, because the way the match play works, you've got your top 16, and then you've got 16 other players that qualify to play against them. By the time it gets to the third round, it's top class, and it should be. I think we've got Luke Humphries on tonight, but again, decent lineup again tonight. Tomorrow's matches onwards will be top class darts.
Yeah, so obviously we're recording this on Tuesday now. Yeah, Humphries is playing Bunting tonight, and the second round goes from obviously Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday the quarterfinals, semi-final Saturday, and then the finals on Sunday. So yeah, another good week in the darts there.
I don't think anyone gets near Luke Humphries, by the way. He's just so consistent. And again, the two sides of the game in terms of his averages and his checkouts, in terms of how often and consistently hits those doubles.
Yeah,
I just can't see anyone getting near him this week.
Not even Van Gerwen, no.
No. He just doesn't get flustered, and you could see from Littler. Obviously, Littler is a cool customer, and ridiculously cool customer for his age, but you can see his face getting red last night. Like, he just couldn't live with the pressure. Whereas Humphries is just so cool. I mean, you don't call him Cool Hand Luke for no reason. And I just think he's going to have too much for his opponent this week.
Yeah, no, I'll be watching that, mate. Right, Gary, I think that is us done, mate, with the top of the sport this week.
Just briefly by the way, and I should have pointed this out at the start of the show. Argentina get another trophy in the Copa America as well.
Oh, wow, of course, yeah. Wow, how do we forget about that, yeah. does that, do you think, for you go to any way in, just stopping this kind of Ronaldo-Messi debate? Do you think what Messi's doing with Argentina, do you think it has any sway on it, do you think, or is your mind already made up on who's the greatest?
Yeah, I think it does. And I mean, you look at that episode we had a few weeks ago in the middle of the Euros where we talk about what's Ronaldo's motivation. Is he selfish? Is he a good captain? You can't even question that with Messi. He's just a player, isn't he? He's a winner. Yeah. And he kind of got that dual focus of, look, I'll preserve my own legacy and I'll find a way to be a top-class player in this team, but I'll also bring the other players up with me. And he just has that, I just think he has that overwhelming influence on the rest of his team. Whereas you can't really always say that that's the case with Ronaldo, and I think that puts him on another level for me.
Yeah, there definitely does seem to be more of a team ethos around Messi, doesn't there, wherever he's kind of gone. And Ronaldo was like, look at me. I think Messi is very, he almost seems like, which is probably a word that's never been used to describe it, it's almost like, it's like an underwhelming presence that you don't really see, but then if you look at it, it's like, everyone's onto it, you know what I mean? But it is amazing to see that, how he's managed to take these teams and do what they do, which is just seemingly win all the time. And it then poses the question, will he stay on another 2 years for the World Cup? It's going to be in America. He's playing in America. I mean, for his PR and media team, they're probably licking the lips at the idea of Messi going to a World Cup in America. But it's whether he can, look after his body for another 2 years and then go again.
Yeah, no, it's a big question, and I think just briefly back to the Messi-Ronaldo thing, Ronaldo at this moment in time can only play up front. That's the only position he can play, and he stays high up front. He doesn't whatever. That's the position, and the team have got to fit around him. Messi almost just looks around and goes, "Where am I needed here? I'll go and drop in here. I'll go and drop in there." He plays where he wants, but he does it thinking, "I'll just address the balance here by dropping into the left, pulling over to the right." Going up top, he just reads the game and he makes the game look so beautiful, doesn't he? And I think that's the bit aesthetically you're like, yeah, wow, he makes everything look easy, everything look graceful, and yeah, I think he could go on for another 5 years, and honestly do, because he walks through the game.
It's almost as if the manager sets up his team as if he's only playing with 10 players because he just knows Messi will just walk around and fit in where he needs to, it just shows you how good he is, the fact that he can almost not only do it because it's all right doing it, but he's doing it and he's winning the biggest trophies that you can win, which is just incredible, isn't it? So, yeah, I've always been Team Messi, but I think for me it was cemented just a little bit more, seeing him win another Copa America, which was great to see.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, mate, I will let you crack on with your day, mate. Thanks for catching up with this week of sports. Only 3 weeks left now to the Prem, which I cannot wait for. And, we'll see you all soon. Cheers.